Kenya National Bureau of Statistics (KNBS) has released the Time Use Report, a report that seeks to account for how Kenyans spent their time. Now, according to the report, women spent 4 hours 30 minutes on unpaid care and domestic work in a day compared to men who spent 54 minutes only. Jimmy Mbogo now joins us with more.
All right, thank you very much, and a very good afternoon to you too, Nyakundi. As you've rightfully said, this was the launch of the Kenya Time Use Report, the first one to be held in the country that just looks at how Kenyans spend time, particularly how much time do you spend on income-generating activities, how much time do you spend on leisure activities. And we just want to look at some of the key highlights that are contained in this report. It's quite a comprehensive report, and of course we'll be giving you more details later on after we've gone through the report and just perusing through and looking at some of the highlight numbers. But for now, we want to join, we are joined currently by the director, that is Director Public and Social Statistics at the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, rather, not standards, Mr. Abdikadir Awes. Well, Director, thanks so much for making time to speak to KTN. So one of the things that has come out of this report is the fact that men are spending more time on unproductive activities. So what are some of these activities where men are spending time compared to women?
Okay, most of these activities are unproductive activities, and they are mainly on sleeping, eating, on social media and other activities. These are mainly personal activities.
All right. When you look at some of the time spent that from the report, we see that a lot of women are spending so much time at home in just taking care of domestic matters. So in terms of, does that put them at a disadvantage economically?
Actually, in most cases, those are unpaid activities. And why we are doing the time use is to get that data so that we have programs and projects to address some of those issues, so that men and women also can empower women also to be part and parcel of the economy.
All right. So when you look at this report and some of the findings, you've talked about 24,000 households that took part in this process. We just want to look at, from out of these households, how many would you say, how much time rather are Kenyans spending on income generating activities?
Actually, those are gainful activities. What I can say, we just compare them by sex and age, and we find that when it comes to gainful activities, these are what we call productive activities. Men play a major role in more than the women. So these are some of the issues we need to address when it comes to time use.
All right. So when you look at the time that Kenyans, particularly in urban centers, spend in terms of commuting from home to their workplaces in gainful to try and earn a living, how much time then do you find did you find that is spent in that route heading to work?
Actually, we were just focusing mainly on the activities. Activities to do with leisure, activities to do with unproductive and productive activities. That's the main one we actually measured. So that one could be part of the unproductive, working from, let's say, from office to work. That one will be taken as a part of the unproductive one.
All right, now, Director, the big conversation now is that work-life balance. So when you look at some of the leisure activities that Kenyans are being involved in, one of these activities, and when you compare between those in the urban centers and those in rural Kenya, what is the biggest difference in terms of these leisure activities that they take part in?
Actually, that one, during the presentation, I presented them very well, and you will find that still, whether urban or rural, women actually are more disadvantaged when it comes to unpaid work and domestic work still. So our comparison mainly is we compare men and women, and as well as the age. Those are some of the variables we use to compare. Yes.
All right. So in terms of just harnessing some of these findings to be able to, even as we do economic planning for the country, what role then does this data play in terms of just being able to allocate resources that then help Kenyans use their time or spend their time more on productive activities?
Actually, the data plays a very major role. For example, you can have address the labor force, the labor policies. It can be used in addressing some of the issues. You can also influence in budgeting process to be very gender responsive. Those are some of the factors we do. So I think those are the areas which, when it comes to planning, to be able to address.
All right, and also, Director, before I let you go, there's the question of personal development, and I'm sure this may be one of the areas that you are looking at. What have you found out in terms of personal development that Kenyans are being involved in, be it in pursuing further education, be it in self-improvement? What are some of these things? What is the trend within that space?
Actually, one of the division I talked about was the learning, and we found that okay, people go for learning, but the percentage is too smaller compared to other activities. Yes.
Are there specific areas that you would say we are concerned about this trend, or this trend, be it from the male gender or from the female gender?
The concern is that in most, if you look at the data, women are more disadvantaged than men. You'll find that when it comes to unpaid care or domestic, they are the ones who do more of this work. Yes.
All right, Director, thanks so much for making time to speak to us. And of course, we'll be giving you more details, Nyakundi, later on. And just looking at some of these numbers, just to be able to put them into perspective, particularly in that on the issue of that income inequality, which continues to be quite a big conversation, not only in Kenya but globally. And of course, we'll be putting all these figures in perspective, just to be able to share with our viewers and to enlighten them just on how then they need to better manage their time. But for now, back to you.
All right, Jimmy, thank you so much for that. Now,